Hey guys, welcome back. So today we will be taking a look at third-party controllers. Third-party controllers have been around for a really long time. That's really no doubt. Either because the controllers messed up or they just tried to catch in on the craze too. And I've actually got a lot to show you today. So without further ado, let's get to it. So first up, I got this guy, the SharkPad Pro 64. And this is a third-party controller for the Nintendo 64. So, it's really your standard Nintendo 64 controller. It's just not really that comfortable to hold. Like, for example, when I'm holding the Z button, it just kind of digs into my finger right here. And comparing this to the original first-party Nintendo 64 controller, it is kind of identical, except it's missing this handles right here. The analog sticks do definitely feel a little funny. And the start button is a little more circular than flat. And the buttons all seem to, like, I don't know, they're in some kind of circular thing compared to the original first-party gamepad's flat ones. But really an interesting controller regardless. Alright, so next up I got this third-party Xbox 360 red controller bot, which claims to be some kind of thing called rock candy. And let's compare this to the original Xbox 360 controller. The D-pad feels the same, the analog sticks feel the same, I guess. This one feels a little smoother than the original Xbox. The buttons feel the same. The start and select buttons are kind of different, though. This one has more of a flat thing than this circle thing. The trigger buttons feel the same, although this one is not wireless. Because as you can see, there's a little USB that you could charge your Android phone with. So that's what this thing powers on. But compared to that, this is kind of a little more convenient controller. But this is a nice controller nonetheless. And next up, I got this third-party controller for the GameCube. Now, comparing this to the original first-party one, this one kind of has a buttery smooth. But this one just feels grainy and has a lot more friction. The C-stick kind of feels different than the original. The D-pad feels funny. The start button is kind of the same. The buttons have more of this click sound. Just listen. The analog sticks feel the same. The Z button also has that same click. But this is a nice controller if you're just looking for a cheap alternative. And next up we got this other Wii Remote rock candy thing, and oh boy, there's a lot to unpack here. The home button is over here, while the home button should be right here. The power button's still there, the D-pad, but the plus and the minus buttons are right here next to the A and the D-pad. And the 1 and 2 buttons are diagonal on this one, then rather to the side. And the back feels exactly the same, although this one can wear out from time to time. And you can also see the controller's insides just like the original Xbox controller. But the nunchucks for these things are also incredibly different. You can really see that humongous hump compared to this thing. This one is also just not that comfortable to hold. And this one, you can easily just swirl around. But this one, you can just, lets go of your thumb really easily. Yeah, and that too. It can also, if you push it hard enough, it can catch on like that. This nunchuck just isn't really that good. It's not that comfortable. The stick is just kind of awful. And the buttons back on this thing feel weird. And it's just not that comfortable to hold. For the next one, it's actually a pair of controllers. Here are two third-party controllers for the PS2. Let's take a look at this one first. Comparing this to the original first-party one, it's really not that bad. It's got a better D-pad. The analog sticks feel the same, although there's no analog. That's a weird thing to remove. The start and select buttons are also a little different. And the buttons on this one feel a little stiff than this one. The analog sticks feel the same, and it's still a wire controller regardless. And now we will look at this Nerf one, and it's really cool. The D-pad isn't great, but the analog sticks are very smooth. This is my favorite part about this controller. The analog sticks are in this bowl, and it just smoothly goes around. The start and select buttons are, again, different. They're circle. The buttons feel the same, though. Although, on the triggers, they're both the same size than rather this giant piece right here. They're more identical to this one, right? To the L1 button, or the LR button, or the right L buttons. But again, the analog sticks feel amazing. This next one that I have is a giant monstrosity. This is the Mad Catz wheel, again for the PS2. And, oh boy, this thing is humongous. I mean, there's not a whole lot I could say about it. Although, the start and select buttons are kind of stiff. This one acts as the X button, this acts as a square button, this is the L2 button, right, B, A, and there's the D-pad. There's also this really stiff little joystick thingy, and it actually has these suction cups on the bottom, so, you know, you don't lose your control over it. And again, it's your typical wheel, but when you turn it and you let it go, yeah, it does all of that craziness. It's almost impressive. Other than that, there's not a whole lot I can add about this, although it does have a digital and analog input, which is interesting. But it's interesting regardless. Okay, so this next one is for the Wii. This giant gun, which I believe is used for hunting games. You connect the nunchuck, which is the trigger. The Wii remote is up here, so you can press buttons yourself. Here's the little eyelid. There's also this button right here where you can, like, put it to your size, which is a nice feature. And there's also this little, interesting... It's supposed to move this thing, but mine is stuck. There's also this thing down here, that if you open it, it should open. Alright, so when you open this thing, it reveals all the cords that's connecting to the nunchuck to the Wii remote. I mean, there's nothing special about this thing, but it's great for hunting games. So yeah, third-party controllers can be really weird and wacky and sometimes big. But again, they can fix some issues the original controllers have, and they can also be cheaper regardless. Out of the ones we discussed today, I'd probably say my favorite one is the Nerf PlayStation 2 controller. Not because it's better than the original controller, but rather for the problems it fixes for the original. And not to mention the convenience of wireless. So if you have a PS2, I highly recommend picking this up. Okay guys, that'll be about it for this video. So if you enjoyed, please leave a big fat thumbs up, that would be appreciated. And make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell as hard as you can click or tap. And always make sure to subscribe for more to see more gaming content. And make sure to share this with other people who might find this interesting. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Peace out, peeps.